I worked at the National Financial Investigation Agency (NIF) in Equatorial Guinea, a place where power and ambition often walked hand in hand. My name is Amara, and I had earned my position through years of hard work, persistence, and a dedication to uncovering corruption in the system. Despite the challenges, I had always believed that my efforts would speak for themselves and propel me forward. One evening, as I sat at my desk going over reports, I received an unexpected call. It was from Baltasar Ngonga, the head of ANIF. He was a powerful figure, known for his charm and, some whispered, his questionable methods. His influence stretched far beyond the walls of our agency, and many had speculated about the way he made his decisions, especially when it came to promotions. Amara, his voice crackled over the phone, come to my office. There's something important I'd like to discuss. I felt a flicker of uncertainty. I had worked hard to get where I was and had always kept my head down, focusing on the work. I wasn't sure if this meeting would be a moment of recognition for my efforts or something else entirely. When I entered his office, Baltasar was seated behind his large mahogany desk, his expression unreadable. He gestured to the chair across from him, and I sat down, waiting for him to speak. Your work has been impressive, Amara, he said, leaning forward slightly. But let's be real. The way the system works around here, you'll only get so far unless you understand how to leverage certain opportunities. I nodded, trying to mask my discomfort. I had heard rumors about Baltasar's approach to career advancement. Some said he demanded loyalty in exchange for promotions, but I wasn't sure how far that was true. He continued, his tone smooth. I can offer you a higher position, one that could put you in a place of influence. But, in return, you'd have to show me that you understand how things work here, that you're willing to do what it takes. His words hung in the air, thick with implication. I could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on me. It wasn't just about the promotion, it was about who I was becoming in that moment. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I've always believed that my work should be what speaks for me. I don't need favors or deals to prove my worth. Baltasar's eyes narrowed slightly, but he didn't back down. You're smart, Amara. You could go far, but only if you know how to play the game. That's the reality of our world. This agency, this country, it's all about leverage. If you want to rise, you need to know how to use it. I felt a surge of determination. I had worked too hard to let my career be defined by anyone else's terms but my own. My integrity, my dedication to the work, that was what mattered. I wasn't going to let anyone manipulate me into compromising that. I'm grateful for the offer, but I won't play games like that. I believe in earning my place through my skills and my efforts. If I'm meant to rise, it will be because of my work, not because of a deal behind closed doors. Baltasar studied me for a moment, his face unreadable. Then, he leaned back in his chair and let out a low sigh. You're a rare one, Amara. Most people would jump at the chance. But I respect your conviction. I stood up, my decision made. I don't need shortcuts to get where I'm going. I'll succeed on my own terms, even if it takes longer. With that, I walked out of his office. I wasn't sure what the future held, but I knew I had made the right choice. It wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to face whatever came next. I would rise through my own merit, not by compromising my values, not by making deals with those who believed power could be bought. As I left the building that night, I felt a sense of pride, knowing that my integrity was intact. And in the end, that would be the foundation of my success. A few weeks after that fateful meeting with Baltasar, I found myself increasingly focused on my work, determined to prove myself without relying on anyone's influence but my own. I kept my head down, immersing myself in investigations and complex cases that were challenging yet fulfilling. But life, as it often does, had other plans. It was another late evening when I received another call from Baltasar. My heart skipped a beat, but I shook off the unease that followed. Maybe it was a follow-up on the promotion or another opportunity. I picked up the phone. Amara, Baltasar's voice came through smoothly, as always. I've been thinking about our last conversation. You're impressive, truly. So, how about we go somewhere to talk more, but this time, outside the office? A chance to step away from the pressure. What do you think? His invitation was unexpected, and for a moment, I hesitated. Vacation? With him? It felt like a strange proposal. But, at the same time, it intrigued me. He was powerful, and I had seen him in the context of the office, always commanding, always in control. A casual, personal invitation felt like a rare glimpse into the man behind the suit and tie. Still, I wasn't sure what he was really after. Where do you suggest? I asked, cautiously. I've already planned a trip to an island resort nearby, just for a few days. It'll be a chance for us to relax and get to know each other better. No work, no pressure. Just two professionals enjoying some downtime. Think of it as a break, Amara. You've been working non-stop, and you deserve it. His words seemed genuine, but I wasn't entirely convinced. My instincts told me there might be more to this than a simple vacation. But something inside me also wanted to understand him better. To see beyond the powerful figure in the office. If this was an opportunity to learn about the man, perhaps I could understand his motivations more clearly. I decided to accept, but on my terms. All right, I'll go, I said, carefully. But let's make it clear, this isn't about business. It's just two colleagues taking a break. Baltasar's response was swift, almost too quick. Of course. Absolutely. Just two people. Nothing more. When the day arrived, I found myself stepping into a small, private plane heading toward the island resort. The lush greenery of the island stretched before us as we landed. The air was thick with the scent of salt water, and the sound of gentle waves crashing against the shore filled the space around us. The resort was stunning, a luxurious blend of modernity and nature, with private villas surrounded by palm trees and the ocean beyond. We were shown to a villa where Baltasar had arranged for us to stay. It was quiet, peaceful, a stark contrast to the chaos of our usual lives. We spent the first day unwinding, walking along the beach, and indulging in the resort's amenities. It felt strange to be away from work, yet the tension between us was palpable. Baltasar was more relaxed here, but I could sense the power he wielded even in the serene surroundings. Over dinner that night, the conversation finally shifted. You know, Amara, Baltasar began, his tone lighter than before. Sometimes people think that the climb to power is all about skill and hard work. And yes, those things matter. But what's often overlooked is the ability to understand people. The way you navigate relationships, the way you make decisions about whom to trust. It's the game, really. I could hear the underlying message, but this time, I wasn't as on guard. And you think that's the key to success? He looked at me, his expression unreadable, but there was something almost vulnerable about the way he spoke. It's not about playing games, Amara. It's about understanding the world and how it works. The rules aren't always clear, and people don't always play fair. But if you can adapt, if you can navigate it, that's where true power lies. I wasn't sure what to say. I had always thought success was a result of integrity and hard work, not manipulation and power plays. But as I sat there, in the quiet of the evening, I realized that there were layers to Baltasar that I didn't fully understand. This wasn't just about career advancement or corporate maneuvering. It was about survival in a world that often didn't reward those who played by the rules. As the days passed, we continued to talk, sometimes about business, other times about life. I began to see a side of him that was more human, the weight of his responsibilities, the loneliness that came with his power. Despite all the things I disagreed with about how he ran things, there was a part of me that admired his ability to maintain control, to navigate a world that seemed to constantly shift beneath his feet. By the time we returned from the island, I felt like I knew him a little better, but I also understood that there was a fine line between connection and compromise. I had come to see that I didn't have to play the same games he did to be successful, but I also couldn't ignore the reality of the world we lived in. Maybe there was a way to navigate it on my own terms, just as I had promised. In the end, Baltasar's offer had not been a turning point. Instead, it had been a chance to learn about him, about myself, and about the balance between ambition and integrity. It was clear that our paths were different, but for now, at least, I had learned to walk my own way, knowing that true success didn't come from manipulating the game, but from understanding it and making my own rules. When I finally returned home from the trip, my mind was full of conflicting thoughts. I had spent days in Baltasar's company, learning more about him and the intricate world of power he navigated. But even more than that, I had learned about myself, how far I was willing to go, where I drew the line, and what I truly valued. I knew I couldn't keep any of it from my husband. I knew he deserved the truth. He was waiting for me when I walked through the door, a warm, welcoming smile on his face. The moment I saw him, the weight of everything I'd experienced on that island trip seemed to lift just a little, as though the comfort of home could ground me again. My husband, Jose, was the complete opposite of Baltasar. He was calm, thoughtful, and above all, steadfast in his values. He'd always been my anchor. Amara, how was the trip? You look like you could use some rest, Jose said, taking my bag from me and leading me into the living room. I hesitated for a moment. I had thought about how to explain everything, but the words felt a little more complicated now. There was so much to unpack, so many layers to the experience. But Jose, with his unwavering honesty and understanding, was the one person I could confide in without fear of judgment. It was complicated, I began, sitting down on the couch beside him. I'm not sure where to start. Jose gave me a gentle smile, his eyes full of patience. Take your time. I'm here. I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts before speaking. Baltasar invited me on a trip to an island resort. It was supposed to be a break, just a chance to get away from everything for a few days. Jose's eyebrows lifted in surprise, though he didn't interrupt. A trip with him? Just the two of you? I nodded. Yes, just the two of us. At first, I wasn't sure what to make of it. I mean, you know what kind of person Baltasar is: powerful, driven by ambition. And I've always been wary of how he works, how he expects loyalty and trust in exchange for things. But it wasn't what I thought it would be. We talked a lot, Jose. About work, about life, about how he sees the world. He listened quietly, but I could see the subtle tension in his jaw. He was trying to process what I was saying. Did anything happen between the two of you? He asked, his voice calm but edged with concern. I shook my head quickly. No, nothing like that. I would never. It was never about that. But there were moments where I started to understand why he does what he does. It was unsettling, to say the least. The way he talked about power, how he navigates the world. It's like everything in his life is about maintaining control, about manipulating the system to get ahead. It was hard to listen to, but at the same time, I could see why he believes it works. Jose leaned forward slightly, his brow furrowing. And how did you feel about that? I hated it, I admitted, my voice trembling slightly. But I also felt a weird kind of respect for him. He knows how the system works. He's not naive. And I've spent so much of my career believing that my hard work would be enough. That integrity would carry me through. But sometimes, I wonder if that's enough. Maybe there's a way to make things work without compromising who I am, but still, using the system in a way that benefits me. Jose's hand gently touched mine, grounding me. Amara, you've always had a strong sense of what's right. You can't lose that. I know this world is challenging, and I know you've been up against people who don't play fair, but you can't change who you are just because others choose to bend the rules. I married you because you have integrity, because you do the right thing even when it's hard. Don't lose that. I nodded, feeling the weight of his words settle over me like a comforting blanket. I don't want to lose that. I know I can't. But I also don't want to be naive. I don't want to keep thinking that if I just work harder, things will change. Maybe I need to learn how to navigate the system without losing myself. Jose paused for a moment before speaking again, his voice gentle but firm. You don't need to play the same game as Baltasar to succeed. The truth is, real power comes from within, not from manipulating others or playing the system. You're going to make it on your own terms, and that's what will set you apart. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I had been carrying the burden of this trip, the uncertainty it had stirred in me, and hearing his words was like coming back to myself. You're right, I said, my voice steadier now. I don't have to play his game. I can play my own. And I know I'll get there even if it takes longer. Jose smiled softly, squeezing my hand. You'll get there, Amara. I believe in you. Always. I leaned into him, resting my head on his shoulder. Thank you. I needed to hear that. I don't want to change. I want to be successful, but I want to do it in a way that stays true to who I am. The conversation lingered between us, both comforting and affirming. In that moment, I knew that no matter the challenges I faced, I would never compromise on my values. I had Jose by my side, and together, we would figure out the best path forward, one where I could rise, not by manipulating the system, but by staying true to the person I was. The following weeks felt like a whirlwind. While I was back in my routine at work, Baltasar's presence lingered in the back of my mind. His offer for me to understand the system still echoed in my thoughts. But it wasn't just that, it was his unspoken influence, his persistence in trying to pull me into his world, that made me uneasy. He was still someone to watch, someone to be cautious about. What I hadn't expected, however, was for Jose to take matters into his own hands. It happened one evening, just a few days after I'd told Jose about my trip with Baltasar. We were sitting at the kitchen table, me flipping through a report and Jose, as usual, staying close by, his thoughtful gaze never straying far from me. I had just shared some of the latest developments at work when he stood up, his expression unusually serious. I'm going to meet with Baltasar, Jose said, his voice calm but filled with determination. I looked up from the papers in my hand, surprised. What do you mean? Meet with him? Why? Jose met my eyes, his gaze steady. I've thought a lot about what you told me. And as much as I trust you, Amara, I think it's time for someone to set clear boundaries with him. I could feel the tension rising, the weight of his words settling heavily in the room. Jose, please don't do anything rash. It's not necessary. I'm fine. We've already talked about this. I'm not involved with him in any way other than professionally. He took a deep breath, coming around to my side of the table and placing his hands on mine. I know. But what you're saying isn't the full picture. You're a strong woman, Amara, and you can handle things. But I don't trust Baltasar. I know how he operates, and I know what his intentions can be. I don't want him to think that he can manipulate you, or anyone else, into doing things his way. I could see the resolve in Jose's eyes, his protective instinct kicking in. It was something I had always admired in him, but I didn't want him to risk his own position or well-being by confronting Baltasar. Jose, you can't just walk in and confront him. You don't understand how powerful he is. He's not someone you can just challenge head-on. Please, trust me. I've got it under control. Jose's expression softened for a moment, but the concern never left his eyes. Amara, I know you're strong, but I also know what he's capable of. I won't sit by while someone like him continues to test the boundaries of your professional and personal life. I'm going to meet him, and I'm going to make sure he knows that you're off limits. He's not going to keep pushing you like this. I felt a sudden surge of panic. No, Jose, I don't want you to get involved. It could make things worse. Please understand you're putting yourself at risk. My voice trembled, but I could hear the urgency in my words. I couldn't let Jose take that risk, no matter how much he cared for me. But Jose, unwavering as always, shook his head. I can't just sit back and do nothing. If he's truly trying to cross a line, he needs to know that I'm here, and I won't let him play games with you or anyone else. I'll do it quietly, but it has to happen. I could tell that once Jose made up his mind, nothing I said would change it. Still, a part of me wanted to protect him from the situation, to keep him out of the complex and dangerous world that Baltasar inhabited. But Jose wasn't one to be easily deterred. He had always been protective of me, and in a way, this was no different. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a matter of standing up for me. It was something much larger than that. It was about standing up to someone who represented everything Jose and I stood against. Okay, I finally said, my voice soft but resolute. But promise me you'll be careful. I don't want anything happening to you because of him. Jose leaned down, kissing my forehead gently. I promise. I'll do it the right way. It'll be calm, but firm. I'm not going to let him think for a second that he can overstep with you. The next day, Jose left for his meeting with Baltasar. I had no idea what would happen, but I could feel the tension building with each passing minute. I knew Jose wasn't someone to make threats or speak out of turn. He'd find a way to address this without making it worse, but I couldn't help but worry. Baltasar was a man who valued control above all else, and he didn't take well to being challenged. Hours passed before I received a call from Jose. His voice was calm, but I could tell there was something more to the tone. I've spoken to him, he said simply. I exhaled in relief. And he understands. I made it clear that you're not someone he can manipulate. That you're off limits, Amara. There was a pause, then he added, I told him that if he continues to overstep, I won't hesitate to take further action. I felt a shiver run down my spine. Jose's words were strong, but I knew they were measured. He wouldn't have said anything he didn't mean. So, it's over? I asked cautiously. Not entirely. But I've made it clear where things stand. I don't think he'll try anything more. He knows there will be consequences if he does. I breathed a sigh of relief. The weight that had been pressing on me seemed to lift slightly. Thank you, I said quietly. I didn't want you to get involved, but I'm glad you did. You always know what to say. Jose's voice softened, filled with care. I just want to protect you, Amara. I want to make sure you're safe, and that no one ever makes you feel uncomfortable or pressured into something you don't want. I couldn't help but smile even through the uncertainty of the situation. Jose always knew how to make me feel like I wasn't alone, no matter the circumstances. I know, I whispered. I'm lucky to have you. And though the tension wasn't fully gone, I felt a sense of reassurance. I didn't have to face the world of power and influence alone. With Jose by my side, I could navigate it all, and Baltasar, for all his influence, would no longer be a shadow looming over my life.